All right, what I've got here is just a dauber with some water. I'll wet the edges of my leather real good right here, all the way around. I'll actually work it in sections just to keep the leather moist while I'm burnishing. As you can see, I put a good amount of water on there. Then I now have a Coca-Cola wheel on here, and I don't need the vacuum cleaner, so it won't be quite so loud. I have several different groove sizes in here, and I'll just start slowly burnishing the leather with the different sizes, trying to burnish the edges and the main flat spot. I'll work back and forth. And as you can see, that's starting to bring out a very nice, man, I don't know if the camera can see that or not, I hope it does. It's got a very nice burnished edge. You can see the black leather and the brown leather. The brown leather will burnish up considerably darker than it was. And I'll go all the way around and do that on the edges. Then, like I say, we'll basically be ready to sew her up and polish it and be done with it. I'm going to turn this off while I finish burnishing these edges, but when we get done, they should all look like that, or maybe even a little better. I'll look if I find a spot on here that won't burnish. If there's a gap, a low spot, something like that, I'll use just a piece of sandpaper with my hand to finish that out so that it's smooth. I think a nice burnished edge is one of the things that makes quite a bit of difference in a really bad holster or a pretty fair holster or a great holster. The great leathersmiths have great edges. I have a pretty good edge. I mean, it's not a terrible edge. It's not a great edge. It's nothing like the Leather Masters. I'm amazed at theirs. I mean, they just truly, their edges are perfect, and that's what separates them from a guy like me. But anyway, let me get this thing done, and I'll be back with you shortly. Like I said, I'm going to do the whole edge and get it ready for the next process. All right, I'm done with the burnishing, and as you can see, the edges actually come out pretty good. I wouldn't call it a piece of show quality, but if it was something where I was really, like I say, building it completely for looks, at this point I would probably take some 80 grit sandpaper, go through and hand sand just to knock off. There are some little burn shiny spots on it. I would knock those off, wet it, go back again, maybe even use the what I referred to a while ago, which is the gum Tragicanth here, which makes a little slicker edge, but that stuff's about $5-6 a bottle. This holster is not going to end up costing the customer that much, so I'm not trying to cheat the guy, but I mean, it's a $50 double layer holster that, I've got to cut a few corners on it, or else it'd have to be a $100 holster, and he didn't want to spend $100. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go along and I'm going to sew as close to the edge as I can. I'm not even going to mark a line. I'm actually going to just follow the edge with the foot of my sewing machine, go all the way around the entire perimeter. And why I'm doing that is to keep the edges from coming loose, kind of keep the leather in place so as it flexes around, it doesn't, it doesn't come loose and delaminate and end up with just a real mess. So I'm going to go ahead, this really doesn't take too long, so I'm going to go ahead and leave the sewing machine on unless I run into some kind of trouble where it looks like it's going to take me a minute to fix it, and then I'll go ahead and probably shut it off. But otherwise, I'm just going to follow these edges and show you what we've got. This is a Ferdco Juki Pro 2000. It is an incredible machine. I don't make a dime off of these people, so I mean, I'm not plugging it for commercial, but if you decide that you want to make holsters or something like that, look into an Artisan, a Ferdco Juki, a Cowboy. There's a lot of good ones, but get yourself an actual leather stitcher. I mean, the motor on this is measured in horsepower instead of amps, and it'll sew up to 3/4 of an inch of leather with no effort at all. If you try to use a upholstery machine or a heavy-duty home sewing machine, I mean, you're not going to sew. This is over a 1/4 inch thick right here. I mean, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'd say it's pushing 3/16 of an inch. It's glued. It's hard. Both of these are. This is hard leather. I mean, it's not not garment leather. You're not going to sew it with a any kind of a machine other than one made specifically for this type of work. Anyway, let me sew these edges real fast here. I assume you can see that, and what I've done is I've went ahead and sewed a border on it. Got a little bit of, I probably got 1/8 of an inch away there where I was trying to stay about 1/16, but all in all, looks pretty good. I'll trim up the threads here. One of the things I was talking about the sewing machine, I'm sure that anybody that knows anything about them noticed this, but I have a speed reducer and a DC servo motor on this, so I was able to, I can literally slow this down to the point where if I want to, I can stitch one stitch at a time. I mean, just chink, 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 chink like that without having any problems, and then turn around and just step on it and bring it back up to speed. You can see the stitching a little better, I think, on the lighter color side there. As you can see, I just basically went around the edges, put a border on it. Now what I'm going to do next is fold the belt flap down, and I'm going to stitch it right here. I'll do that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off, get things ready. I'm actually going to go ahead and stitch the belt loop. There's nothing dramatic about it. I'm just going to fold it down and put a box right here, just put a stitch. So I'll be back on after I do that to talk just a little bit more.